So, yesterday we were already talking about this whole ceasefire proposal from the US and Ukraine, and now Russia's stuck in a classic damned if you do, damned if you don't situation. If Moscow doesn't agree to a full ceasefire within 30 days, Trump's going to drop the hammer and hit them with even tougher sanctions. But if they do agree, Ukraine's getting an all-you-can-eat buffet of U.S. military aid and fresh intel straight from Washington, letting them regroup and rearm for round two with Russia. But here's where things get sneaky. Ukraine might just shake hands on the ceasefire, only to turn around, stir up trouble, and blame Russia for violating it. Then they'll run crying to NATO saying, "Hey guys, now's a great time to let us in, yeah?" And just like that, boom, NATO's dragged into the war, which is exactly what Zelensky has been dreaming about, but hasn't been able to pull off yet. Now, just when things are getting spicy, Putin pulls a power move. The guy shows up in full military gear for a surprise visit to Kursk, a region Russia lost partial control of last year when Ukraine pulled off a sneak attack. This wasn't just a casual stop by. This was Putin sending a message. Russia's taking back what's ours. Speaking of Kursk, back in August last year, Ukraine launched a shock offensive, took control of parts of the area, and thought they had themselves a golden bargaining chip for future negotiations with Russia. But fast forward 7 months, and that chip is crumbling to dust. Moscow cut off Ukraine's only supply routes, forcing Kyiv to start pulling back. At their peak, Ukraine had captured around 1,376 square kilometers in Kursk, but as of March 2025, Russia's taken back about 1,100 of those, roughly 86% of what was lost. And now, Ukraine's troops are waving the white flag with 130 of them already captured. But wait, it gets wilder. Russia pulled off what can only be described as a real-life ninja tunnel invasion, aka the Mole Man Special. Russian troops snuck through 15 kilometers of an old gas pipeline, popped up behind Ukrainian lines like some kind of horror movie, and absolutely wrecked their defenses. Ukraine's troops, probably sitting around thinking they were safe, suddenly had Russians popping out of the ground like gophers with guns. It was game over before they even knew what would hit them. After that stunt, Putin showed up in Kursk to high-five his troops and then basically told them, "All right, boys, let's wrap this up. Take back whatever's left." And while he was at it, he threw out another wild card, suggesting Russia might establish a buffer zone in Ukraine's Sumy region, aka the place where Ukrainian forces have been launching cross-border attacks into Russia. Oh, and by the way, Russian troops just took over a key settlement in that area, cutting off one of Ukraine's most important supply routes. Kyiv's in deep trouble, and the walls are closing in fast. Meanwhile, in the diplomatic arena, Russian Senator Konstantin Kosachev dropped a blunt truth bomb. Any deal that happens will be on our terms, not America's. Translation: Russia's winning, so they're calling the shots. So what does this mean for Ukraine? Well, that big Kursk offensive they thought would help them at the negotiating table? Yeah, that's dead in the water now. Ukraine's running out of bargaining chips, and they're also losing political leverage. Even their negotiations with the U.S. and Saudi Arabia on March 11th showed how little control they have. America paused military aid just to pressure them into a 1-month ceasefire. Sure, Washington later reversed the decision, but let's be real, Kyiv's still looking pretty desperate. Now, here's where things get even more interesting. Trump and Putin are scheduled for a heart-to-heart on March 14th. Will Russia agree to a ceasefire? Maybe. But don't think for a second they'll make it easy. Putin's going to slap down some serious demands, stuff like Ukraine permanently staying out of NATO, no foreign troops on their soil, and the West cutting off military aid. Basically, he's setting up a scenario where Ukraine either agrees and gets completely declawed or refuses and gets steamrolled on the battlefield. Right now, Russia's holding all the aces, and Ukraine, they're sitting at the poker table with a busted flush, hoping for a miracle. America's still debating how much longer they want to keep writing blank checks to Kyiv, and in the meantime, Putin's tightening the noose. Bottom line, this fight isn't just about tanks and missiles. It's a high-stakes chess game, and Putin's making all the right moves. Over the next few days, expect some big developments because one thing's for sure, Moscow isn't done playing hardball yet.